What up, y'all, and welcome to the Wizard's Forge. In this video, we're going to be covering how to create a broom mod in the Creator Kit. So we're going to import this custom sci-fi broom asset, and then show how to equip it in-game and add it to Week's shop in Hogsmeade. With that being said, let's get started. We'll start off this video by first creating an empty mod. Then we're going to download a 3D model from the Epic Game Store and import it into the Creator Kit. Then we'll create our broom by adding entries to the static tables and by creating those broom blueprints. Then we'll use a Mod Mutator to add our broom to the player's tool record so the player can equip it in-game. After that, we'll localize our text and broom icons to show how we want it to look in-game. Then we'll finish off this video by adding the broom to Weeks' shop in Hogsmeade and then uploading our mod to CurseForge. To create our broom mod, first we're going to make an empty mod. So I'm going to select the create mod button, select new empty mod, then I'm going to give our mod plugin a name. I'm going to call this broom mod _01 _ sci-fi broom. Once that all looks good, I'm going to press this create mod button. Next up, we're going to find a skeletal mesh that we want to use for our broom. I'm going to import one from outside, but if you want to use a mesh in the Creator Kit, you can find most of them located at Rigged Objects, Props, and then anywhere in here. For this mod, I'll be using the sci-fi flying scooter model created by Mist Polygons. You can find this for free on the Epic Store, that I'll put a link in the description below. After downloading that model, I imported the FBX file into Blender. If you haven't used Blender before, Blender is a free 3D modeling software that's really great for modding. I'll link it in the description below. To import the FBX file, you'll select File, Import, FBX, and then you'll select your file and then press Import FBX. After that, I scaled down the bike a bit and then moved it down on the Z-axis so that this origin point is on the seat of the bike. Important thing to note, this origin point is going to be where the player sits, so you're going to want to make sure that's as close to the 0 axis as possible. After we have that looking how we want it, we're going to select our model, select File, Export, then Export as FBX. Then you're going to select the folder you want to export it, and then there's a couple settings we're going to change. The first thing we're going to do is make sure this limit to selected object is selected. We only want to export this mesh as our FBX file. We don't want to include the lighting or anything else. Next, we're going to scroll down to the bottom and we're going to make sure bake animation is turned off. Then we're going to open armature and we're going to make sure add leaf bones is turned off as well. Once those all look good, select the export FBX button. After that, open the Creator Kit and then navigate back to your mods folder. To import our FBX file into our mod, we're going to right click into our mod folder and select this import asset button. From there, find your file in your file explorer and then select the open button. Now, before we select import, we're going to want to make sure this skeletal mesh option is turned on. We want to make sure we're importing this as a skeletal mesh instead of a static one. So once that's selected, you can press the import all button. Then I'm going to select all the textures that came with that download, and then I'm going to drag and drop it into the Creator Kit. Then I'm going to double click the material in the mod folder, then I'm going to hook up all of the textures to them. So I drag and dropped all these textures from our content browser into this material folder, and then I hooked all of them up to their respective material slots. And then for a quick and easy test, I swapped out the skeletal mesh for our Ember Dash broom with our sci-fi bike. Then if we load into a level and equip the Ember Dash broom, we'll be able to test out our broom in the Creator Kit. Now if you're using a mesh that's already in the Creator Kit, we can export it, edit it in Blender, and then import it back into our mod folder. To export an asset from the Creator Kit, we'll right-click our asset in the content browser, hover over Asset Actions, and then select the Export option. Then select where you want to save it in your file explorer, and we're going to change a couple of things in the export options. So we're going to make sure FBX 2013 is selected, then we're going to disable everything else. Once that looks good, we'll press the export button. Then once you've edited your mesh, you're going to want to make sure you import it to your mods folder. So right click in your content browser, select that import option, and then there's a couple settings we're going to want to change. The first one is going to be the skeleton. You want to make sure you either use the same skeleton as the original skeletal mesh so you can use the same animations, or clear it out and have it create a new skeleton when you import your skeletal mesh. Next up is going to be materials. This is going to be whether or not the creator kit imports materials or uses materials already in the creator kit. So for our sci-fi bike, we needed to import those textures from outside, but since we already have these assets in the creator kit, we can just make sure we set search location to all assets, and then do not create materials. Then we select import all. It'll import our skeletal mesh with the materials already attached. Now note this can take a really long time, so if you want you can skip this step and then just manually attach your materials. Before we make our own broom, let's check out an existing broom in the Creator Kit. You can find these at Content, Pawn, Player, Broom, Blueprints, Broom, and then the broom name. If we look at the Ember Dash broom, we'll see that it consists of 3 blueprints. It has this vendor preview blueprint, this capsule blueprint, and this prop blueprint. To make our own broom mod, we're going to navigate back to our mod folder and then create these 3 blueprints. The first blueprint we're going to make is going to be that vendor preview blueprint. We're going to right click in our content browser, select blueprint class, then I'm going to type in vendor preview, then I'm going to select this BP underscore flying broom underscore vendor preview. Then I'll press the select to add that to the mods folder. And then following the naming conventions for the other blueprints, I'm going to call this BP underscore flying broom underscore vendor preview underscore our broom name. So I'm going to call this BP underscore flying broom underscore vendor preview underscore broom sci-fi bike. Then we'll double click to open our vendor preview blueprint. Once I'm in the vendor preview blueprint, I'm going to change the skeletal mesh. So I'm going to make sure I have the skeletal mesh selected in my mod folder. Then I'm going to full screen this to make it a little easier to see. Then I'm going to select the skeletal mesh component, and then find the skeletal mesh. Then I'm going to press this arrow key to swap it with my skeletal mesh. Once that looks good, I'm going to compile and save the blueprint. This skeletal mesh is going to be the object that appears in UI and vendor screens in-game. I'm going to use the same physics asset as all the other brooms, but if you want to use your own, you can scroll down into the class section, and then this broom physics asset for writer, you'd place your physics object in here. Then I'm going to minimize out of this blueprint just in case I need it later. Next up, we're going to create that broom capsule. So I'm going to right click in the mod folder, select blueprint class, and then I'm going to type in flying broom capsule, select this top one. Then when that loads, I'm going to press select and add it to my mod folder. And then following the same naming conventions as the other capsule blueprints, I'm going to call this BP underscore flying broom capsule underscore broom sci-fi bike. Then we'll double click to open our capsule blueprint. Then same as before, I'm going to make sure my bike skeletal mesh is selected. Then I'm going to full screen this to make this a little easier to see. Then we're going to look in the components, find skeletal mesh, find the skeletal mesh for the broom, and then switch it with our bike. Then compile and save the blueprint. Then if you want to add your own VFX to the broom, you can select this top option. And then in this STR Accents VFX, you can select your VFX. Minimize out of the capsule blueprint, and then we'll make our third blueprint. And lastly, we'll make our prop blueprint. So we're going to right click in our content browser, select blueprint class, and then I'm going to type in flying broom prop, find this first option, and then press the select button. And then following the same naming conventions as the other broom props, I'm going to call this BP underscore flying broom prop underscore broom sci-fi bike. And then we'll double click our broom prop to open up the blueprint. Then same as before, I'm going to click on my skeletal mesh, and then I'll full screen this to make this a little easier to see. Then I'm going to find the skeletal mesh component and use that arrow button to swap it out with my bike. And then I'm going to compile and save the blueprint. Now that we have those 3 blueprints set up, next we're going to set up the databases. We're going to minimize out of this. We're going to open our registry static tables. We're going to click Window, DB Text Entry, Static, and we'll type in registry and then double click this registry static table. Most assets in Hogwarts Legacy are going to start out as an entry in the registry static table. Here we can define our item with a registry ID and then a subtype ID. Then we can use other static tables to further define our entry. And then we'll scroll down to the bottom of the registry static table until we find this empty option. For the registry ID, following the naming conventions for the other brooms, I'm going to put broom sci-fi bike. And then for the subtype ID, I'm going to type in miscellaneous and then select the miscellaneous option. Then once those look good, I'm going to press this plus button to add it to the registry static table. Then we're going to close out of all the static tables and reopen them so we can use this registry entry in the other static tables. So we'll press the X button and close out of those. Now that we have our sci-fi bike broom entered as a registry, we can add it to the item definition static table to further define our broom. So I'm going to select Window, DB Text Entry, Static, and then type in Item, and then double click this item definition static table. Then I'll scroll down to the bottom of the item definition static table and then further define our broom. First up is going to be this item ID. This is going to be the entry that we put in the registry static table. So I'm going to click this, type in sci-fi, and select Broom Sci-Fi Bike. Next up is going to be item type. We know that we want this to be a broom, so we're going to select this and select broom. Now we've told the game that this Broom Sci-Fi Bike entry is a broom. Next step is going to be the rarity tier. Since brooms don't use the rarity tier system, we're just going to leave this as default. So I'm going to select this, then select the default option. Next up is going to be this item level. I'm not 100% sure what this does, but none of the other brooms use it, so we're just going to delete this. Next up, we're going to have the economy value. This is going to be how much your broom costs to buy in a shop. I want my broom to be free, so I'm going to set this as 0. Then we're going to have the sell price. Since we're not currently able to sell brooms in Hogwarts Legacy, I'm also going to set this as 0. Then we're going to have inventoriable, which is going to be whether or not this item can be in the player's inventory, so we want to keep this as true. And then we don't want our broom to be giftable, sellable, or droppable, so I'm going to select all of these to turn them to false. And then we'll set the slot level to small to match the other brooms, so we'll select this option and select small. Next up, we're going to set the lock ID. All of the brooms use the same lock, so we're going to select the lock ID, type in vendor, then we're going to select this vendor underscore broom underscore acquired option. We want to be able to use our broom from the diamond in game, so we're going to go to the usable on diamond and make sure this is turned on. Next up, we're going to set where the player can find this item after they obtain it. So we're going to select the storage location and then select broom storage. Then once that looks good, we're going to scroll to the beginning of this row and then select this plus button to add our entry. Next up, we're going to make a virtual container for our broom. This is going to be the first step in allowing our broom to be used by vendors in-game. First, we'll need to add our broom to the virtual container list static table. So we'll do this by selecting Window, DB Text Entry, and Static. From here, search Virtual Container List and then double-click the Virtual Container List static table. Then we'll scroll down to the bottom and create a new entry. Now, naming conventions for this part is very important, so we're going to make sure we follow the same naming conventions as the other brooms. To do this, we're going to type item in all caps underscore our broom name. So I have item underscore broom sci-fi bike. And then for the subtype ID, we're going to select single item. When that looks good, press this plus button to add it to the virtual container list static table. Then we're going to close out of all of the static tables so we can use this entry in other static tables. We'll close out of this and this. Now that we've created a virtual container, we need to tell the creator kit that we want this virtual container to contain our broom. We'll do this by creating a new entry in the virtual container contents static table. We'll select Window, scroll down to DB Text Entry, Static, search Virtual Container Content, and then double-click this Virtual Container Content static table. And then we'll scroll down to the bottom and add our entry. This virtual container ID is going to be that container we just made, so we'll click this and type in sci-fi. Then we'll select item underscore broom sci-fi bike. If you don't see this option, close out of all the static tables and relaunch them, and then try again. And then this item ID is going to be the entry we put in the item definition static table, so we'll select this, search sci-fi, and it'll be our broom sci-fi bike. And then to match the other brooms, we're going to change this item random weight from 0 to 100. And then we'll press this plus button to add it to the virtual container contents static table. Once you've added that, we'll close out of our static tables. Next up, we're going to create a vendor preview data table. This data table will assign our vendor preview blueprint to the Broom Sci-Fi Bike registry entry that we created at the beginning of the video. To do this, we'll right-click in the content browser of our mod folder, select miscellaneous, and then select the first data table option. Then we'll open the drop-down, search vendor, and then open this vendor Broom preview actor. Then I'm going to call this DT for data table underscore vendor broom preview actors. And then we'll double click this to open our vendor broom preview data table. And then we'll click this plus button to add a new row. First up, we're going to set the row name. We're going to make sure this is exactly as we entered it in the registry table. So I'm going to click this and then type in Broom Sci-Fi Bike. And then for this Broom Preview class, we're going to select our vendor Broom Preview blueprint, and then select this arrow to add it to our row. And then if your mod contains multiple brooms, you can press the plus button, and then follow those same steps to add it to the same preview data table. Once that looks good, we'll press save, and then close out of our data table. And next up, we're going to create a Mod Mutator so we can add this data table to the game. To do this, we'll right-click on our content browser and select Blueprint Class. Then we're going to type in Mod Mutator, and then select this first Mod Mutator option. And then I'm going to name this Mod Mutator BP underscore Mod Mutator. And then we'll double click to open up our Mod Mutator. For this part of our Mod Mutator, we want to take our data table that we just made and then add it to the same data table that exists in game. So to do that, we'll find data table extensions and then select this plus button. And then for the table we want to add it to in game, we'll click this and then type in Broom Vendor and select this UI underscore DT Vendor Broom Preview Actors. We'll be using this blueprint again later, so we're going to compile and save the blueprint and then we'll minimize it. Next up, we're going to add an icon for our broom. The existing broom icons can be found in Content, UI, Icons, Item, and then find the broom icons. For my icon, I grabbed the render of the bike, and then I removed the background, and then I drag and dropped it into the content browser and renamed it UI underscore T Sci-Fi Bike Broom. Next, we're going to make an icon info data table so we can add our icon to the game. For this, we're going to right-click on our content browser, select Miscellaneous, and then select this top data table option. From here, we're going to select this drop-down, we're going to type in icon, and then select the icon info data table. From there, we'll press the OK button to add our data table. And then I'm going to name my data table DT underscore icon info. And I'm going to double click to open the data table, and then we're going to create a new row. So I'm going to press this add button. And then for row name, we want this exactly as we put it in the registry. So I'm going to put Broom Sci-Fi Bike. Then for our icon, I'm going to select it down in the content browser and then select this arrow button to add it. Then once that looks good, I'm going to save and then minimize out of this. Now we're going to add this data table to our existing Mod Mutator. So we'll double click to open the Mod Mutator. And then if you get this version, press the Open Full Blueprint Editor. Then we're going to press this plus button to add a new data table extension. From here we'll have additional data. We're going to want our icon info we just made. And then we want to add it to the icon table already in game. So we're going to select this, type in icons, and then select the UI underscore DT underscore icons. And then we'll compile and save and then minimize out of this. And then to test it in game, I'm going to load into the holodeck. I'm going to use the console command inventory add broom sci-fi bike space 1. And then it'll add that broom to my inventory. And then I can check the preview to make sure the vendor preview is working as well. So I'll select gear, broom, and then I can see the 3D model for our broom. Next up, we're going to create an item tool blueprint that's going to combine all three of our blueprints together. So we'll right click on our content browser and select blueprint class. From here, we'll search broom, item. Then we'll select broom item tool and then press select. And then following the same naming conventions as the other ones, I'm going to call this BP underscore broom sci-fi bike item. And then we'll double click to open our broom tool blueprint. The first thing we're going to set is going to be this flying broom class. This is going to be our capsule blueprint, so we'll select this in the content browser, then select the arrow button to add it to the blueprint. Next up is going to be the flying broom prop, so we'll select our prop blueprint in the content browser, then press the arrow key to add it to the blueprint. Next up, we're going to set this rider animation to ADA human. Now, there's a couple different ADA humans in the creator kit, so to make sure I get the right one, I navigated to Content, Data, Animation Architect, Broom Writing, and Unreal Assets. Then I'll select ADA human in the content browser, and then select the arrow key to add it to the blueprint. Then I'm going to full screen this to make it easier to see. Then we're going to start on the abilities. So, trigger ability on consume, we're going to want this as true. And then for custom ability name, we're going to follow the same as the other brooms, and we're going to search well fed. And then we'll select the well fed option. Next up, we're going to set the animations. So first use item ability. we're going to use the eat food. So I'm going to type in eat food, and we'll use the ABL underscore eat food. Next step is going to be the left arm state. We're going to switch it from stop motion only to allow motion takeover. And then we're going to switch the right arm state from hide item to play hand only motion. Then we'll scroll down to targeting and we'll find allow use when count is 0 and make sure this is true. Then we'll scroll down to activate, and for activate set, we're going to press the plus button to add a new entry, and then we're going to type in scale in. And then we'll select the tool effect underscore scale in. Then we'll do the same thing, deactivate effect, press the plus button, and then we're going to use the tool effect underscore scale out. Then we want to attach the left hand of the player to the broom. So for the attach socket, we're going to attach it to the left hand socket. So we're going to type this exactly. We're just going to do SKT underscore left hand. So SKT is in all caps. Then we're going to capitalize the L and capitalize the H in left hand. And then we're going to set this tool equip action to left arm item equipped. So we're going to scroll down to the L's and select left arm item equipped. Once all those are set, we'll compile and save and exit out of the blueprint. Now that we have our broom blueprint item, we're going to make a corresponding data asset that we can add to the Mod Mutator. So we're going to right click on my mod folder, and then select miscellaneous, and then data asset. Here I'm going to type in item tool, and select inventory item tool record. And then I'm going to name this DA for data asset underscore broom sci-fi bike item. And then we'll double click to open our inventory item tool data asset. First thing we're going to do is set this inventory item tool to the blueprint we made earlier. So I'm going to select my BP underscore broom sci-fi bike item, and then press the arrow to add it to the data asset. And then this lookup name is going to be the same as the virtual container ID. So we're going to put in item underscore broom sci-fi bike. Now you can save and close this data asset. Similar to how we had to add our data asset to the player's wand in order to cast spells, we'll have to do the same thing for the broom in order for the player to use it. So to do that, we'll check out the BP underscore biped player, and there's this inventory toolset component. In this toolset, we have a list of all of the data assets for all of the items the player can use. So we have combat items, potions, and brooms. In order to use our broom in game, we're going to add our data asset to this list. We'll need to add it through the Mod Mutator so it appears in game, so we'll navigate back to our mod folder and double click our Mod Mutator. For this part of the Mod Mutator, we want every time that the BP underscore biped underscore player spawns, we're going to add our broom tool record. To do this, we'll find the actor type for spawn notification and press the plus button to add an entry. From here, select the drop down and we're going to search BP underscore biped underscore player. And then we'll select the BP biped player. Now the Mod Mutator knows that every time it senses the BP biped player spawn, it should do something. So we're going to add an override function to tell it what it should do. So we're going to find the function section over here, select override, and then select the receive actor spawned notification. First thing we're going to do is cast this to the BP underscore biped player. Then we're able to drag the toolset component from the biped player blueprint. So we'll drag off this execute node, and then we'll type in cast to BP underscore biped underscore player. Then make sure to select this first option and not the player class option. And then for the spawned actor, we're going to connect this to the object. Now that we have the BP biped player, we're going to drag off this node. Then we're going to type in inventory toolset, scroll down to the bottom, and select the get inventory toolset component. Before we add our data asset, we're going to do a safety check just to make sure this is valid before we add to it. So I'm going to drag off this inventory toolset and then type in is valid. And then I'll do the is valid with the question mark next to it. Then I'll connect this to the execute node. Then we're going to drag off from this inventory toolset component node, and then we're going to type in add tool and select add tools to record. And then I'm going to connect this is valid node to the add tools to record. And then for this new record, I'll click this, search sci-fi, and then select the DA underscore broom sci-fi bike item. Then we can compile and close out of this blueprint. We'll finish off our broom by localizing that debug text. So we'll select window and then scroll down to localization text editor. And then here for the ID, we're going to paste it exactly how we have it in the registry entry, so Broom Sci-Fi Bike. And then in localization, we're going to put how we want it to appear in game. So I'm going to call it Sci-Fi Bike Broom. And then press apply changes. And then for the description, we're going to add underscore DESC. So we have Broom Sci-Fi Bike underscore description. And then for the localization, we're going to paste in our description. So I have brooms. Where we're going, we don't need brooms. Then I have 3D model by missed polygons. And then I'll press apply changes to save that entry. And then to test our broom, I'm going to load into this empty level. I'm going to use the console command inventory add broom sci-fi bike space 1. And then I'm going to use the console command item wheel to allow me to use the broom in this level. So then if I open the pause menu and go to gear, I'll see my sci-fi bike broom, and I'll have my text, sci-fi bike broom, and then brooms. Where we're going, we don't need brooms. 3D model by missed polygons. And then I can check in here, see the model, equip it, and then when I use it in game, I should be able to mount and write it. Perfect. Before we finish off our broom, let's consult our sacred text. This Wizard's Forge Bible is going to be a list of commandments based on mistakes that I made, so you don't have to. This commandment: thou shalt always ensure Nav Mesh is present wherever you want the player to unmount the broom. This is because the player is only able to unmount the broom in a place where there is Nav Mesh. Since the hollow empty level doesn't have Nav Mesh by default, you won't be able to dismount the broom until you add some. Now all that's left to do is add our broom to the vendor. We can do this by adding an entry to the loot container content static table. So I'll select window, db text entry, static, search loot container, and then select the loot container content. And then we'll scroll down to the bottom and add our entry. First, we're going to have the loot container ID. This is going to be the ID of the vendor we want to add our broom to. So I'm going to type in albi and select vend underscore albi weeks. Then container ID, I'm going to click this, search sci-fi, then I'm going to use the item underscore broom sci-fi bike container. And then to match the other brooms in games, we're going to change this item roll count from 0 to 1. I didn't use a lock on this broom, so you'll be able to purchase it as soon as you can access the broom shop, but if you did put a lock on it, you can go over here to required unlock, and then you can set your lock here. Now once everything looks good, scroll to beginning and press the plus button to add your entry. Now for most items, you need to wait 3 in-game days for the vendor to refresh their inventory so you can purchase the item, but to make it a little easier, I'm going to add a quest step that'll refresh that automatically. Do this, we'll minimize out of the static table and open the quest editor. So I'll select window and then scroll down to quest editor. Then we'll make sure the correct mod is selected and press the new quest button. Then we'll make sure we give our quest a unique name, so I'm going to call it WFM underscore broom mod underscore 01 underscore sci-fi bike refresh. Then I'll press OK to create the quest. Now for this quest, I wanted to activate in the background and never let the player know it was ran, so I don't need to set a title or use the activate quest step. I'm just going to select the task, type in vendor, and then select the refresh vendor stock action. Then I'll select vendor ID, I'll type in albi, and then select albi weeks, and then I can save and exit out of the quest editor. Now all that's left to do is upload our mod. My recording for my initial mod upload got corrupted, so I'm going to upload an empty mod instead, and then use that to go over the upload process. So we're going to select this upload mod button. Then we're going to make sure the right mod is selected, so I have WFM underscore broom mod underscore 01. Then I have my mod name. This is going to be how it appears in game, so I have sci-fi bike broom. Then I have a logo. I just want to make sure it's a square image, at least 400 by 400 pixels, and under 5 megabytes. Then for category, I set it to broom, and for mod summary, I have adds the new sci-fi bike broom. Then mod description, I have adds the new sci-fi bike broom to Albi Week shop in Hogsmeade. Then I have this 3D model for the sci-fi bike was created by missed polygons. Once that looks good, I'm going to press the upload mod button. Thanks for watching, and that's going to be it for this video. If you found it helpful, like and subscribe, and let me know what kinds of videos and tutorials you'd like to see next. Wizards Forge Mods, out.